Okay, so now that Gorthor Brown is done, I'm going to actually move over to skin tone. For the face, we are going to add a layer of we'll just use Gorthor Brown. Gorthor Brown is a nice color for a base because I'm going to use Kislev Flesh next. But we will add a little bit of Gorthor Brown as a base tone. Give him more of that tanned look, right? Like he got too much sun. In the midst of battle, the Space Marine Scout decided to lay down and tan himself. Okay, again, just 2 thin coats. First coat is to just get the area covered so that you know what you're painting. Second coat will be to get a cleaner coverage of that section. Okay, so we don't have to do the hands because the hands, he's wearing gloves. So we'll let that section dry. Now, while we wait for that to dry, let's move over to the metallics. We are going to use Citadel's Leadbelcher. Again, I happen to own the air version, but you can use the non-air version as well. And let's move this over to the palette. Thin it down a little bit, and here we go. We're going to paint this entire section right here metallic. Even with the metallic paints, we'll come in and we'll do 2 thin coats of metallic paint rather than 1 thick coat of paint. Now there's going to be 2 more sections for the metallics after this base coat of Leadbelcher. We're going to shade the piece with Known Oil, and then we're going to actually highlight it one more time with Ironbreaker, which is a little bit brighter metallic. One of the things that we will do is hit this section right over here and be very cautious where you paint, because we don't want to get too much of this metallic silver on the browns that we've painted so far or the black areas that we don't want the silver. So at this point it's detailing, which is the more time consuming. We have to be cautious. Now I did notice that I missed a pouch over here, so we'll come back and do that pouch here as well. Or I'll do it off camera, but this section right here, there's a pouch that I missed. So in this little section over here that I did the pouches on the brown and the face, I did miss that section because I didn't do a thorough look. I didn't look over the model. But usually between stages I will look through the model to see if I missed anything, so that I try not to have to go back to the same colors over and over again. But in this instance I didn't get a chance and I missed it. Now here we go with underneath the bolter, or behind the bolter I should say. For me, I actually assemble all my miniatures first before I paint. So I'm not going to go too heavy into detail underneath or behind in here because nobody's going to really see it. I'm just going to focus my attention on the areas that is going to be most visible, which is this section right here, the front. Okay, now the other thing I want to paint metallic is going to be his headset. He's got like a little headset a transmitter or whatever it is to be able to talk with the other scouts. We'll paint that metallic. That goes all the way down through his chin to the front of his mouth where the mic is. We'll get all of that done. As well as this little section of the bolt gun right here. And this is personal preference, but I tend to do the very top of the bolters here as well. Some people just leave it black. I tend to paint mine silver. I've always done it. I don't know why. If anybody knows if that should be a rail system for, I guess, the attachments for the weapon, please let me know. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Okay, so I'm just basically going over a second time in certain areas to give it a second coat. One other really small area is going to be the buckle. So I'm going to try as neat as I can to get the buckle over here. If I do have to go back over with bolt gun, I'm sorry, not bolt gun, dry bark, I will. Okay. I think so far for all the silver or the metallics we're finished. Just do a quick once over. I think we're good. Okay. Now for the face, we'll go back to the face. I'm going to move on to Citadel's Kislev Flesh. Okay, for Citadel's Kislev Flesh, I'm going to hit the high points of the face.
Oh man, check out this button.
Okay, so with the Kislev Flesh, I'm going to hit up all the high points. Okay, so again, just like I did with the cloth, I'm not going to go all the way down into all the areas, but I will come over and give it a nice little wash of the Kislev Flesh as well. Because we're going to do it in 2 coats. And then after this dries, we'll give it a shade using Citadel's shades. Okay, this is the second coat. Okay. It's a little rough right now, but let's give it a shade, and then we'll see the magic happen. Let's give it a shade of Kislev. No. We'll give it a shade of Reikland Flesh Shade. It's more of a orangish, reddish shade. Give it a little bit of lively color pop. Just making sure that the paint's completely dried. Okay, that's it right there. Now obviously we can go back in and do all the eyes and the eyeballs and stuff like that, but again, this is just tabletop mini. You're not looking for perfection right now. You're looking for just getting the bare minimum of 2-3 coats colors on so that you can field it. With that being said, after Reichling flesh shade is done, I'm just going to go over with black or Nuln Oil. And we're going to add Nuln Oil to all the metallic parts. Add a little bit of water. And let's add the Nuln Oil. That'll dull down the silver a little. And I actually like Nuln Oil on the metallics. Gives it a nice matte finish, metallic finish. Using the Citadel shades is like cheating almost. It's such great stuff. Okay, and I think so far for the metallics and the flesh tone and the browns that we just started, they are all done. I'm just going to wait for this to cure and dry, and then we've got the finishing touches coming up where we will do the eagle and the skull on the bolter as well as the skull on this gauntlet over here. And then the last thing to do is to apply the transfer. Unfortunately, I don't have transfers for this, but yeah, so we're almost done. We're on the home stretch, so bear with me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed so far. I'll be back in a short minute after this dries. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, welcome back. So what I ended up doing off camera was I did finish up that pouch that I forgot. We did let the metallics and the Nuln Oil and everything dry out, or the shades. So now what we got to do to finish this piece off and call it complete for basic tabletop game ready miniature is to finish up these little areas right here and the hair. If we want to do the buttons, we could do the buttons back here, but I'm gonna pass on that for now because I think it looks pretty decent actually as is, with a little bit of, oh no, sorry about that. I think it looks pretty decent as it looks right now with a little bit of highlights on there already. So let's go ahead and touch up on these two areas. Now we did the pants and the cloth and the eagle in the back. We started off with XV88, so that's what we're going to use. So we'll thin down the paints and drop a little bit of XV88 on there. Again, be careful now not to get it everywhere, especially since we just finished up the black paint. We don't want to get the XV88 or the Screaming Skull on the black paint. Next section over here, this skull right over here, with its wing for the bolter. Now again, we'll let that dry just a little bit and come back and hit it up with a second coat just to make sure we got good clean coverage of that color. Paint is see-through, so if the Screaming Skull doesn't go on cleanly, you'll be able to see through underneath to this brown, and we don't want that being streaky either. For the purpose of the video, I am being a little impatient and just kind of coming back over this. But since you guys are not doing it for video, make sure you just sit and wait a little bit so that that dries completely before moving on to the next stage. Okay, so now that XV88 base coat is down, we're going to come back to Screaming Skull. We'll add a thin layer of Screaming Skull over that. And again, for the purposes of the video, I am rushing a little bit to the next stage before letting it dry completely. On your end, please do make sure you let it dry completely before moving on. One of the tips and tricks that I can share with you in this video here, or this section, is that while blowing on the miniature and giving a little bit of air, you will allow the paint to dry a little quicker so that you can put your next layer or next coat down. Alternatively, you can use like a hair dryer or a fan that's sitting next to you that you could put the miniature next to. If you are batch painting though, you wouldn't have to worry about dry time, as you'll be moving on from one miniature to the next. And by the time you finish your third, fourth, or fifth miniature and you come back to the first one, it'll be completely dry. So that's something to consider as well. Okay, so that section right there is done. We're going to go ahead and, just like before with the cloth, we're going to add a little bit of Agrax Earthshade. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, here it is. Now the Agrax Earthshade will tone down that bleach bone, or not bleach bone, that screaming skull. The Agrax Earthshade will actually tone down the screaming skull. And it'll give it that same color saturation as the pants and the uniform top. And because we added a little bit of black into that chest eagle, it gives it slightly a different color than just that brown. Okay, and we're going to let that sit and dry. Once that dries, the color will look exactly the same as the pants. Now, moving on to the hair. We can give it really any hair color we want. I figure we'll keep it simple and give him like maybe yellow hair. This is a really old paint pot, but bubonic brown is the color that I'll use as a base coat. Add a touch of water to the paint. So bubonic brown is pretty bright, but we will tone this down with a shade so it's not as bright. Now I am painting over black with the yellow, and that could be a little bit of a pain, but if you do multiple coats you should be okay. Just remember, even though it may be frustrating that it's not going on properly, just do thin coats. Let it cure and dry before moving on and putting another layer. Or if you want, you can check out some of my other videos. You know, I do talk about painting certain colors on different shades or underlayers. So if you prime it in black or white or gray, what colors suit it and what the best underlayer is for certain colors. Alternatively, if you don't want to go straight yellow or bubonic brown, you could layer this up in several layers by adding some browns first and then adding the yellow. Okay, so we'll let that dry real quick. So again, you can see that the black is still showing through, so we'll come back in and do another coat on top. Okay, so for that time I added a little bit less water onto the paint, so it is a little bit thicker, in the hopes that it'll cover a little bit better. This top section I keep rushing, so I should just take my own advice and let it sit for a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm going to let that just sit for a little bit. So, but that's basically the finish. I will finish this. I'll let that dry off. I'll come back and I'll throw the shade on that and do some minor touch up, and that's it. But basically, this miniature is 99%, 95%, whatever you guys want to think, done, ready for tabletop. The only other things that you'll have to do, which I won't do in this video, we'll do in another video later on, is to do decals, to put the decal, the chapter symbol, as well as the other symbol here for the arrow, for the troop choice, and then to base it, and he's ready for gameplay. But just give me a quick second. I will let this dry off, come back, and show you the complete finished miniature without the base or the decals. Okay, see you in a bit. Alright folks, that's it. That's the end of this tutorial where we painted this from start to finish with gray-black primer to a tabletop ready miniature. If you guys enjoyed the series, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you give this a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already, please follow me over on Twitch where I stream live miniature painting for all the viewers, and I answer questions and do tutorials there as well. Make sure you guys also follow me on Twitter and look up Brushlickers United over on Facebook. I'll have all the links and descriptions down below. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time.